Hey guys, morning video. Basically, they collapsed volatility yesterday into close, and we get for the fifth week in a row, we have a closing price outside the expected move for the week on the SPY. So basically, and one thing about it I want to point out here is the VIX actually sold off to the lows of the session into the close, which in the past they haven't been doing that on the spike outside. So that was something noteworthy here. So as of 2 days ago, we had 11.94% implied volatility in the SPY, and basically yesterday it closed at 9.78%. So we had a nice little collapse in the implied volatility in the SPY in yesterday's session, which helped drive markets to the upside. VIX closed on the lows of the session. Okay. So some things that I'm looking at here. Let's see here. Let me zoom this in here to where you guys can see better. Let's go on a smaller time frame. Okay, boy, we're getting one heck of a sell-off here in the overnight session, and we're actually broke all yesterday's inventory, and we've already tried to push below the day before's inventory. Basically, what came out was the SARS numbers were far worse than what they were reporting yesterday. They were holding back on the data to after the market closed to let it fall in on itself. And I think the market makers were in on it a little bit here. And so basically, we got a closing price again for the fifth week. And what this did yesterday's action, you see how we chopped right up here near the top of the line? This gave the market makers, all the people who sold put premium down here, they went and sold puts for this week expiration. That gave them the opportunity to close out their credit spreads for nice profits, and that's why we had a collapse in the implied volatility. In my opinion, they were actually closing out these positions, and it was helping collapse the implied volatility in the SPY. So basically, we're going into the end of the week now with lower inventory of put contracts going forward here. And when it was them collapsing that the implied volatilities, when the implied volatilities are collapsing, you really don't have people selling credit spreads, call credit spreads up here either. So it was a perfect little situation where volatility was being crushed, and they pushed right there at the end of the day. Okay, and now we're going into the end of the week with less inventory, which now we have a potential for a squeeze, a long squeeze to the downside, because we have that less. There's less insurance out there for traders to protect themselves to the downside. So we have a potential for a forced selling situation into the end of the week. And we had a similar situation when we broke out a couple weeks ago on the SPY, a forced selling situation. And basically, the market makers, they don't want they have puts out there or options out there for insurance, but they don't want you to have a lot of insurance for big sell-offs, because somebody on the other side is having to foot the bill for that insurance. So basically, right there, they lulled people into taking their insurance off, knowing that this is the area right now. We should, whenever you pop it above this in an overnight session, implied volatility should be spiking instead of contracting, and they suckered people in to contract, to actually they weren't buying their protection into this dangerous situation, into the overnight. And that was what I was looking into the close, and I was no way by any means going to be taking huge long positions, knowing that they were contracting volatility into a dangerous overnight session situation. And that's exactly what we got. Okay, so that's basically what I'm seeing here in the markets. Hard to fight the Fed, though. We had another injection, so I'm going to check again about 8:30 Yeah, just write me at the bottom of the video if you want the link to the repo, reverse repo operations. We had another basically between the two $40 billion injection yesterday during Powell's testimony. Uh, and that's helping support the markets. But the news flow does take over, and it does feel like we got like a musical chairs going on here, and we're getting down to the last few chairs before the fat lady sings. Okay, so uh, there's a whole different the market just seems really heavy here. Okay, and that's what I believe, and that's what I'm going to stick to. And basically, you see these ticks. These ticks have just basically been anemic for pretty much a week now, and we keep going higher and higher and higher, but we don't really have a lot huge supporting ticks to justify the move. Well, the reason that is it's a short squeeze. They're just slowly but surely with this Federal Reserve uh, pumping money into the markets. They've been short squeezing this further higher and higher and higher, and eventually the rubber band's going to break because there's not. It doesn't feel like there's real buying coming into the markets. It's like the markets are tired and are ready for a decent size correction, in my opinion. Okay. Okay, this morning in the early morning session here, the top volume leader here on my scan, we have Alibaba top of the page. We got it coming out with earnings this morning. It's not showing a print yet. The news feeder doesn't show it yet. So the numbers aren't actually out yet, but Alibaba's seeing some selling ahead of the numbers. Uh, and that be anything China related would be something to be concerned about. Um, Even I wasn't willing. I do expect really good numbers out of Alibaba, but the guidance is just that's what really matters. And I just don't know how you can push prices higher with Alibaba, knowing such situation going on in there over there. And look at they're selling Tesla off and coming right back down to my levels. I am still very bearish on Tesla. Um, so basically, it's having a nice responsive sell here. Tesla. So I don't see anything down there in the headlines. So it just might be a responsive sell off with the markets. Okay, Nvidia is reporting tonight, I think, and they're taking some profits off. I think it's already achieved its upside potential. Um, the 270 area was where I had Nvidia to the upside. So it took a few minutes there for it to load. But basically, that was my target for Nvidia right here in this zone. And, we got a short squeeze up into that uh, uh, area and pushing it to the upside from here. Just it seems a little ridiculous. That's why yesterday I wasn't trading it. Now on the other side, MU yesterday had an upgrade, and it was really supportive. Um, it got one heck of a nice little pop, and then it's now since then given it all back plus. But yeah, the markets there they keep kind of trying to trace these upgrades and downgrades, and they've really been working short term. So just keep that in mind going forward. We do have Cisco reporting too. It's a volume leader here, but that really about the only thing happening this morning on that front. Now, if we go and look at our futures screener, and what I always look for is to see if the bonds are, and we got the bonds right up here, double the volume on the bonds this morning. So keep that in mind going forward here. We have a bid back in the bonds. So basically, all of yesterday's inventory completely wiped out here in the bonds. So we are right back up here inside my fib fans. The risk is definitely alive and well this morning in the bonds. So keep that in mind. That was an untested VPOC that we've already crossed up and above. So we'll see if this can sustain a bid or not. We do have one more untested VPOC up here higher. So typically they like feeling those virgin point of controls. So just keep that in mind going forward here. Okay. Volumes are really light, so just keep that also. Here it is, 642, really, really, really light volumes. So, um, and the crude's really not, with everything going on, the news and the sell-off. I just think a lot of traders, the markets found an excuse to sell off, knowing that a lot of the insurance that was into Friday got taken off yesterday. So it created a great opportunity to take some profits off, and there's not a lot of insurance out there for big money to take a hit from the sell-off. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Big money who had written a lot of option contracts. They were able to get out from having to pay that insurance, and now they're allowing the market to fall a little bit. Okay. Okay. So far this morning, we got Apple right back down near that 20 SMA. Just keep that in mind. That 322, 324 area, very dangerous situation for Apple. So keep that in mind going forward today in today's session. Still real light volumes, so you can't read a whole lot into it. But that's a lot of that's a pretty significant, almost a $5 drop in Apple in the overnight session. So keep that in mind going forward here. You had over a $20 drop in Tesla. Microsoft's continuing to the downside. That is a major warning sign to me, because market inefficiency is starting to creep into the stocks, and so I want to point that out going forward here, because we have an inefficient marketplace. Because breaking above that market maker move, that's market inefficiency, and I'm actually seeing it showing up in these stocks. So keep that in mind going forward here. Okay. I'm really concerned that this whole technology thing, the semiconductors are on the verge of cracking. That is a major concern of mine. So just keep that in mind going forward. And we have all the Chinese equities on a net sell. The internet, KWEB, they're all starting to crack here. And keep that in mind. Net sellers in the KWEB ETF, internet ETF, Chinese internet ETF. Okay, so I don't see anything here really of any. Applied Materials. Applied Materials is still up. Had really good earnings yesterday, so it is holding up here on very light volume. And I would like to see that as a volume leader, not a volume lagger on the pop. So keep that in mind going forward here. We have a nice little sell-off in Amazon. Seems to be they're taking profits off the table even on Amazon. So a lot of things here to be concerned about going forward. Let's see if I can look at the S&P 500 real quick. S&P 500 scan. Vampa, Facebook, Amazon, Cisco, basically the same across the bill. Just profit taking across the all the way across the board. They're just taking profits off the table. So yeah, a lot of reason to be think that the markets are going to have some weakness here today. So keep that in mind, and I'll give you my first rundown on Microsoft. That's one, since it's some of these stocks, these mega cap stocks, they're almost to the point that they can be indexes themselves. And Microsoft and Apple, both of them had some sell signals this morning. But the one thing I really want to point out here on Microsoft is the inefficiencies that are hitting the market. Basically, I have levels, using my market web study, and they have been hitting religiously on these levels and then backing off. Well, we have a situation where Microsoft started selling off hard early before tagging the next level. And this, in my opinion, is proving that there's an inefficiencies starting to creep in to stocks themselves. Okay, and this is just one example. There's a few others I've got out there, but starting to see inefficiencies creeping into the stocks themselves, not only just the indices. So just keep that in mind going forward. I do think we're setting up for a really rough end of the week here. Like I said, they took off a lot of the protection, put protection. They took a lot of that off yesterday. So yeah, there's whenever that happens, you can start getting illiquid markets to the downside, and things can start coming unraveling pretty quick, and that's exactly what I'm seeing here. Be sure and like the video if you like it, and leave comments below. I had a late start, so there's probably a lot of stuff that I could be talking about here, but I haven't had time to go over stuff yet. Um, uh, if you see stuff in the markets I'm not seeing, I would appreciate some comments at the bottom of the YouTube posting, and maybe so help me out on my trading today. I had a really good trade in shop yesterday. If you One last thing here on shop, I think is completely and totally off its rocker at this price valuation. It's continuing to sell off in the overnight session, but mainly what's going on here with shop. See right here, you don't have any type of Venom line support up in these areas. And I had this drawn out pre-market yesterday, and it pops way up here, and I was immediately buying puts. And buddy, this thing has just continued to sell off ever since. This is actually one of the most overextended charts that I have out there. And they had a really good quarter. I have no qualms with the numbers. I just think that this stock has gotten too rich too quick to sustain any numbers at this level, in my opinion. And it needs to come back in and take a nice little breather, in my opinion. Okay, I don't know what I'm trading today. Heck, I might even be trading to the long side. I don't know yet. But my bias is to the downside. I guarantee you I will have an equal amount of puts and calls if I do decide to trade the call side. Okay, thanks a lot, and I will see you in the trading rooms.